In downtown Toronto, where the city lights bled into the glass of every skyscraper, Jaden Thorne entered the Caspian Room, a restaurant known for serving the rich their comfort and the poor their silence. He was the kind of man whose name could move markets, and whose smile could end careers. That night, boredom sat heavier on his shoulders than his custom wool suit. When the waitress arrived, her uniform crisp, her eyes calm, he saw an opportunity for amusement. "So tell me, Eleanor," Jaden said, his tone sharp with mockery, "if you were in charge of my billions, what would you invest in first?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Every table nearby went still, waiting for the timid laugh that never came. Eleanor met his gaze, her voice even, steady. "I'd start," she said, "by investing in something you clearly can't afford, decency." For the first time in years, Jaden Thorne forgot how to speak. If that moment hit you, don't scroll away. Like, share and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. What happens next will change everything he thought he owned. The wine glass trembled faintly on the polished table as Jaden Thorne stared at Eleanor Vance. The air between them was dense, charged with something he couldn't name. Not defiance, not insolence, but a rare kind of truth that made powerful men uncomfortable. Around them, the Caspian Room carried on with its low murmur of wealth and whispered gossip. But at that corner booth, time had stalled. He tried to smile, but the smirk collapsed before it reached his eyes. "You have courage," he said quietly. "Or maybe nothing left to lose." Eleanor didn't blink. "Maybe both." Her words struck harder than she intended. Jaden's laugh was hollow. He was used to crushing arrogance, not calm honesty. When she turned and walked away, her back straight, her pace steady, the billionaire found himself watching her reflection in the glass. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel superior. He felt small. That night, his penthouse windows looked out over a city of light and glass. He usually loved this view, the empire he built glittering below him, but now it felt like a cage of mirrors. The woman's voice echoed in his head. "I'd start by teaching you what real value means." He poured himself a drink. It didn't help. By morning, the unease had curdled into obsession. A man like Jaden didn't tolerate questions he couldn't answer. He ordered a background check. What he discovered stunned even him. Wharton graduate, former fund manager, banned from trading after an insider scandal she didn't cause. A name erased by someone else's lie. Her career destroyed. Her father bankrupt. Her fiancé promoted. It was the kind of injustice Jaden usually ignored, until now. He spent the day pacing, his phone buzzing with updates from his fixer. Every new line in her file painted a picture he couldn't reconcile. A brilliant mind buried beneath shame, still showing up to serve tables with dignity. By sunset, he'd made his decision. He didn't know if it was redemption or curiosity, but he needed to see what she would do with a real chance. The next morning, the Blue Note diner smelled of burnt coffee and early fatigue. Eleanor tied her apron, exhausted from another double shift. When she turned toward table 4, her breath caught. There he was. No suit, no entourage, just Jaden Thorne in a simple gray sweater. He looked out of place, like a wolf sitting quietly in a church pew. "You're not here for breakfast," she said, her tone flat. "No," he replied. "I'm here to fix something." When he slid the folder across the table, her hands shook. Inside was proof. Every transaction, every lie, every betrayal that had stolen her life. Her ex-fiancé's fingerprints were all over it. It wasn't a gesture of pity. It was power handed back to her. "Why show me this?" she whispered. "Because I hate wasted talent," Jaden said. "And you're wasting yours here." The offer came like lightning. $10 million to run a private fund, a test against one of his own protégés. No rules, no promises, just results. Eleanor almost laughed. "You're insane." "Probably," he said. "But you're the only person who's ever told me the truth. Let's see what truth can do in numbers." By Monday, she was on the 48th floor of Thorne Capital Tower, a floor stripped clean, gleaming, silent. The city stretched beneath her like a living map. On another level above, Marcus Flint, Jaden's favorite golden boy, watched her arrival with a sneer. "So this is the waitress," he muttered to his assistants. "Hope she remembers which side of the tray the glass goes on." When he visited her glass office later, his smirk was polished, his tone poisonous. "Welcome to the Shark Tank, sweetheart. Try not to drown." Eleanor didn't respond. She didn't have to. Her silence carried more gravity than his words. Hours later, when the markets opened, her hands hovered above the keyboard. The hum of the city below matched the pulse in her chest. $10 million. Not hers, not really, but enough to rewrite what had been taken. She studied data, scanned trends, and paused at one forgotten company. Aquaverde Solutions. A near-bankrupt research lab with one radical patent. Water purification using graphene. Everyone had laughed them out of the room. But she saw potential where others saw risk. She pressed enter. $10 million moved in an instant. The building trembled with the energy of it. Her gamble echoing through the trading servers like a heartbeat. By the end of week 1, Marcus was up 8%. Eleanor was down 16%. At lunch, whispers followed her through the corridor. The waitress blew $10 million. Thorne's charity project. She ignored them. At night, she called Dr. Eris Sampson, Aquaverde's lead scientist. He didn't expect anyone to listen to his ideas anymore. But when Eleanor spoke, her conviction rekindled his. They spent hours refining his data, transforming dense equations into strategy. Day by day, the old fire returned to her eyes. "Why do you believe in me?" Sampson asked one evening. "Because your math is clean," she said softly. "And clean math doesn't lie. People do." Week 2. The numbers still bled red. Marcus's fund roared ahead, oil, tech, futures. His every move cheered by the trading floor above. Jaden watched in silence from his private office, torn between admiration and concern. Eleanor wasn't chasing profit. She was building something slower, steadier, invisible to most eyes. When he finally called her up, his voice was calm but sharp. "You're 20% down. Marcus is printing money. You sure this isn't pride?" "It's patience," she replied. "You told me to prove value. I'm proving it." Her composure made him pause. For the first time, he recognized the steel beneath her quiet. She wasn't fighting to win a contest. She was fighting to reclaim her voice. That night, he stayed in the office long after everyone left, watching the tickers reflect off the glass. Somewhere deep inside he was rooting for her, and he hated himself for it. Week 3. A small article in a science journal changed everything. The U.S. Environmental Agency quietly approved Aquaverde's filtration prototype. The stock twitched, barely noticeable, but Eleanor saw it. She didn't celebrate. She doubled down. Marcus, oblivious, mocked her again in the lobby. "Still holding that dying company, Eleanor? Hope you enjoy the unemployment line." She smiled faintly. "Hope you enjoy surprises." When she returned to her floor, the servers blinked like constellations. She had 1 week left. Friday morning came heavy with storm clouds. The markets opened to chaos. Oil surged, futures tumbled, and a ripple of panic moved across the trading floors. At 3 p.m., Marcus popped champagne on the 49th floor. His returns were through the roof. Jaden stood behind his desk, stone-faced, watching both screens. Marcus's triumph, Eleanor's apparent loss. 3:05, everything shifted. A government announcement flashed. Aquaverde Solutions awarded $20 billion national water contract. The ticker exploded. In seconds, the forgotten penny stock tripled, then quintupled. Eleanor's fund shot from loss to $100 million profit. Marcus's laughter died mid-breath. Jaden whispered, almost in awe, "She did it." But Eleanor didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the screen as the numbers climbed again. Google made a buyout offer. Then Thorne Capital countered, under her direction. The building shook with the roar of victory, not from noise but from realization. She had turned dust into gold. Marcus stormed onto her floor, pale, trembling. "This isn't fair. You cheated." She turned slowly, her tone even. "No, Marcus. I worked." When Jaden arrived moments later, she stood from her chair, her expression calm, composed, almost regal. "You've won," he said simply. 250 million. What's your next move?" Eleanor tapped the glass desk once. "I'm not selling." The room went silent. "I'm not a gambler," she continued. "You asked me to prove value. Value isn't in flipping assets. It's in building futures." Jaden's eyes softened. "And Marcus?" She looked past him toward the trembling man in the doorway. "He built his empire on arrogance. It's time he learned what that costs." "Marcus Flint," Jaden said, turning, his voice cold as steel. "You're finished." Security escorted him out as his protests dissolved into panic. For the first time, justice didn't come from a courtroom. It came from the one they underestimated. Months passed. The 50th floor of Thorn Capital looked different now. Sunlight, open desks, no more glass walls. Eleanor Vance, now co-founder of Thorn Horizon Ventures, stood by the window overlooking the lake, her reflection strong and calm. Jaden joined her with 2 mugs of black coffee. "Strange," he said. "The world feels lighter when someone else shares the weight." She smiled faintly. "That's because for once, you're not chasing the next zero." He chuckled. "You've rebuilt my company in your image." "No," she said gently. "I just reminded it what integrity looks like." Across the room, a new report waited on her desk. Sterling Price Investments, the firm that once destroyed her, now exposed for fraud by the same man who betrayed her. The evidence sat ready. Jaden watched as she lifted the file. "You're going to crush them," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No. I'm going to acquire them." He blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely," she said. "I don't destroy what's broken. I rebuild it properly." Outside, snow began to fall over Toronto. Soft, silent, cleansing. Eleanor closed the file, her voice low, deliberate. "Power isn't about revenge, Jaden. It's about restoration." He looked at her with something rare in his eyes, respect. The man who once mocked a waitress now followed her lead. In the years that followed, the world would know Thorn Horizon Ventures not as a hedge fund, but as a force for ethical innovation, investing in clean water, education, and second chances. Every contract carried Eleanor's quiet signature, and every decision carried the echo of that first night at the Caspian Room, when she had faced power without fear. And somewhere in the city, Marcus Flint's name vanished from every trading desk. The same reporters who once praised him now wrote about his downfall, a cautionary tale of greed exposed. He tried to rebuild, but no firm would hire him. The empire that mocked a waitress had been rebuilt by her hands. As the lights of Toronto shimmered across the bay, Eleanor stood on the balcony of her new office. The wind brushed against her face, cool and steady like a promise. She didn't smile for cameras or applause. She smiled because the world, for once, had balanced its books. The city woke beneath a soft winter dawn, the skyline glowing like embers behind the mist. Inside the glass tower that once symbolized arrogance, light now spilled freely across open desks and quiet laughter. Eleanor Vance stood by the window, no longer the woman serving coffee, but the mind rebuilding an empire with integrity at its core. Jaden Thorn joined her, his reflection beside hers, not as a ruler but as an equal. They didn't need words. Their silence carried the weight of everything that had changed. Once, his world revolved around power. Now, he understood that power without conscience was emptiness. Once, she carried shame like armor. Now, truth itself was her strength. Outside, snow drifted over the city she had once walked through invisible. Now, every flake seemed to whisper her name, a reminder that even after ruin, purpose could rise again. Because sometimes, the greatest victories aren't about defeating others. They're about rediscovering who you were meant to be. If this story moved you, show your support. Like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where real stories remind us that truth, courage, and compassion can still change the world.